past few years, surf skates have exploded in popularity. But you might be surprised just how long it's taken for them to get this recognition. Believe it or not, you have to go back over a quarter century to see where the seeds of modern day surf skating were planted. Before this recent wave of surf skating, it's important to acknowledge surfing's impact on skateboarding's formative years. When surfers dismantled their roller skates and put them on 2x4s in the late 50s, early 60s. Skateboarding's popularity was fueled by professional surfers like Skip Fry and Mike Doyle. They gave it the credibility it needed to be pushed to new heights. Brands like Makaha and Hobie appealed to millions that wanted to go sidewalk surfing. So it's clear that since the early days, skateboarding's roots have always been intertwined with surfing. But for many generations, skateboarding shifted into one style, street skating. Maybe street skating's rapid progression of technical tricks made it the most appealing to the mainstream and was necessary to take skateboarding to new heights. The skateboarding scene in the mid-90s was a lot different than what you see today. Skate magazines covered street almost 100%. And so if you introduced a product that didn't fit into that style, it was extremely hard to drive any attention to it. Throughout the years, there were many attempts to reconnect surfing and skateboarding, but none were significant enough to gain traction. Like in 1996, surfers David Cawley, Brad Gerlach, and his father Joe came up with a skateboard that emulated surfing called the Carveboard. While it was a high-quality product and captured the aggressive surf movements, it didn't explode in popularity. I bring up Carveboard first because this was one of the first real attempts at reconnecting surfing and skateboarding in the modern age. It's also worth mentioning other companies with similar visions during this time, like seismic trucks that used a dual spring system, X-Skate torsion trucks, revenge trucks, which can still be found on several skateboards today, and original trucks, which eventually made their way onto handboards. So it's clear there were many attempts at creating a surfy skateboard experience, but none of them were able to do it as successful as Neil Stratton and Greg Falk of Carver Skateboards. Carver truly pioneered what we now know as the Surfskate. It can be argued that all of the Surfskate pivoting adapters that currently exist wouldn't without them. Their story begins in 1996, when Neil and Greg decided to dedicate their lives to figuring out the intersection of surfing and skateboarding.
Greg and I were just paddling out almost every morning at the breakwater, and I grew up skating and realizing that skateboarding hadn't changed at all from when I was a kid. It was like, I was just looking at the same old trucks. And so I thought, as an industrial designer, interested in mechanisms, how could I not just, take a pass at it, see what I could come up with?
Like with anything new, there was a ton of testing and tweaking that went into making their trucks. Neil estimates he made close to 25 different prototypes before he felt comfortable testing it on the steepest road in their neighborhood, Venice's Marine Street. One of their biggest obstacles was creating a surf skate truck that didn't feel twitchy. Anyone can go out and make a truck, but the difficult part is figuring out how to make the front and back trucks work together seamlessly. So Neil and Greg finally created a surfskate truck that felt great to ride. But one of their next obstacles was to get traction. The skateboard industry likes to think of itself as pretty progressive, but in reality, it hates change. Longboard companies like Sector 9 were completely dismissed when they first started back in 1993. One of the most challenging things for Carver in the early days was nobody wanted anything different. They just wanted what they already knew. During this time, Neil and Greg tried their hardest to get people to understand their surf skates, but shops and distributors wouldn't bite.
There's a little bit of flow happening. That's right around the time where Stacy Peralta did Dogtown and Z-Boys. Right around that time where I also heard that, they were working on the feature-length film. I could feel like surf and skate was starting to pick up momentum. I'm like, oh, this is it. That wave, right? It's going to flow right into that. And that sort of came and went. And no one really picked up on Surfskate beyond being excited about the movie for a minute.
They tried for many years to gain some acceptance in the skateboarding world, but it actually wasn't until they transitioned from a skateboard company to a surf company that proved to be a game changer. Japan was actually where they initially found success.
You know, with regards to the Japanese, I mean, they didn't have the same preconceptions about skateboarding. They are a forward-looking culture. They are early adopters of things. And so, you know, we were kind of this sort of underground thing that also keyed right in with their fascination with surfing. The traditional surf culture there is very, very strong. I mean, the aesthetic qualities of surfboards there are just...
While Carver found this first wave of success, the largest longboard company in the world, Sector 9, took notice. In fact, they weren't just a massive longboard company. At the time, they were one of the biggest skateboard companies. Sector 9 decided to offer something that carved harder than the traditional trucks that came with their completes. One of the co-founders, Steve, asked Neil to help them out, and in the mid-2000s, they introduced their Gullwing trucks.
So Steve wanted to have a Surfskate truck in the line that stood independently of the designs that I had. Now, that thing was poorly made, didn't really work very well. I was in the shop already working on for him. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll just throw it in as a freebie. I'll redesign and remake that part for you and actually make it fit the mission truck.
Having one of the largest skateboard companies promote the concept of a surfskate was extremely helpful. It's pretty interesting. The more I dig into skate companies, the more I realize that the founders are more than willing to collab with other companies to push the industry forward for the greater good of the skate industry.
One of the things that we always had amongst all of these companies we were friends with is a respect for each other's lane. We would make an effort to, you know, strengthen our brands within our lane and leave room for the other guy to also have boards in the same surf shop and have something else to offer.
As the surfskate market slowly grew, several competitors joined Carver, including Smooth Star, Handboards, Yow, Swelltech, Waterborne, and the list goes on.
There are what I would call legitimate competitors who have added their own value, brought their own brand flavor. They're distinguishing their technology in a meaningful way. And Surfskate now is starting to become a developed industry rather than just a single product. The problem early on was that we were a brand and a product trying to get a movement started. Like, even if I were to back out completely right now, Surfskate's alive. And so to me, that's the big success, is that it's caught fire enough that it doesn't matter what I do anymore. It's here to stay.
Now that we covered some brief history, what was it that made surf skating so popular in recent years and is now a sustainable market in skateboarding? Well, there are many factors that added up over the years. In my opinion, it was a combination of these four things. 1, the skateboard industry needed to become more open to other styles. This just took some time for it to evolve. 2, there needed to be a visionary that understood the importance of connecting the technical aspects of product design and the riding experience. 3, in recent years, there were several companies offering a surfskate system that actually felt soulful to ride. It wasn't just marketing hype. So having a handful of high-quality surfskate brands pushing the industry forward was vital. And 4, the ability to rapidly share photos and videos on social media mixed with those searching for a new hobby due to the pandemic's lockdowns, and boom, the popularity of surf skating exploded. That's my opinion after digging into this. I'm curious, in the comments below, let me know if you thought I missed anything. Time will tell what surf skating will evolve into, but one thing's for sure, surf skating's here to stay.